everybody. Um, I suppose living with a child who has epilepsy often means living in a constant state of alert. And the parents that are gathered here this evening are not anxious by nature. We respond to real experiences of unpredictability and risk. And the nervous system learns quickly when a child has seizures, especially if the seizures are frightening or severe. And it adapts by staying on guard. And this session is not about switching that vigilance off. That vigilance comes from a place of love and care. And in some situations, careful observation is necessary and appropriate. The problem arises when the system never stands down, even when the child is safe. Over time, that level of alertness carries a cost for the parent's body and mind and sleep and health. And so the aim of this evening is to help us understand why this happens, that it's normal, and to offer practical ways of reducing unnecessary strain while maintaining safety. This is not therapy. Nobody's expected to share anything unless they want to, but it's about understanding what our nervous systems do, what they've learned to do, and how to support them to work more sustainably. So the story begins 2 million years ago. It's going to be a long night. No, our brains have been evolving over the last 200 million years. And they've evolved primarily as threat detection systems. No matter what else the brain is doing, once it detects threat, that threat system overrides everything else and comes to the fore. So our ancestors, when they heard a rustle in the leaves, those of them that said, I don't know what it is, but I'm getting out of here, managed to survive long enough to pass their genes down to us. They didn't have to run faster than the lion or whatever was in the leaves. They only had to run faster than the other guy in order to survive. Those of our ancestors that said, Asher, it'll be grand, didn't get to pass their genes down to us, didn't get to design or be part of the design that our brains have. So our brains primarily respond to threat. The problem often is that we're not living in the savannah any longer. The brain doesn't distinguish between the real threats that are out there and the imagined threats, the what might be's and what ifs that the cinema screen in the head presents us with. The brain responds to all threat equally. And it responds in the same way. If you're having a cup of coffee in Costa and a lion walks in the door, you'll be very glad of this rapid response threat system that's able to breathe in oxygen fast. And no matter how many stone we've put on over the Christmas, it will scramble over tables rapidly. It will find its way up to the small window over the cistern in the toilet. It will do everything in its power to escape. And it does this through fight or flight. It does this through what we might call the anxiety or threat system. And so what our brains do is we block out any external or irrelevant information, and we get air in fast, and the oxygen feeds rapidly the big muscles in the arms and the legs. If we don't run at that time, we cause ourselves a lot of tension. The heart pounds to get the oxygen flowing into the big muscles. And we do this in response to real threat, but we also do this in response to the what ifs and what maybes, and sometimes even imagined threat. Last summer, I was listening to the radio, and I was listening with fascination to this SAS guy. This guy was an international hostage negotiator. He described himself as being always on the alert. He said he would never be more than 90 minutes from an airport and would always have a suitcase packed. And the book that he was advertising or plugging was called Order Out of Chaos. And in this, he promised to describe the latest and greatest techniques in stress management. He said when he's managing stress, the first person that he needs to kind of calm is himself. But the difficulties arise no matter how he coached family members. Somebody was bound to get on the phone and go off script and say, listen, buddy, you better hand my brother back or else. So he had to not just keep himself calm, but keep everybody else calm. I could not wait to buy the book. I thought, this is it. I'm finally going to get the stress management techniques that are top of the range. When I got the book, what he described is a slow breathing technique. 5 slow in-breaths and 5 slow out-breaths are all that is required to bring calm to the fight or flight system. The fight or flight, remember, is activated by over-breathing, short, shallow breaths. That's the accelerator in the body. And we slow that down, we respond to that when we can with slow breathing. So one of the go-to techniques is 7-11 breathing. That means breathing in for a count of 7 and breathing out for a count of 11. And usually all it takes is 30 to 60 seconds of slow breathing in order to inform the alarm system in the body it's okay to stand down. So let's practice. Breathing in for 7 and breathing out for 11. I'll do it first and then I'll invite you to do it. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And when I breathe out that far, the next in-breath will be from down here in the tummy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Except when I'm doing it, what you can see is and hopefully what you see is nothing at all. In other words, each breath is so light, it wouldn't disturb a feather if there was one in front of your nose. So I'll invite you to take a few moments on your own count to breathe in for a count of 7, try and breathe out for a count of 11, and to do that 5 times. So that's one way to respond to the threat system, one way to regulate when the threat system is in alarm and maybe the danger is past. But we don't just have one emotion regulation system that we've evolved over the last 200 million years. We've also got a drive system. And that drive system is the system that motivates us and gives us energy to set a goal, to keep on top of things, to get the energy to pursue what it is that we think is important at a particular point in time. And then we also have a soothe system. You know, our ancestors would not have survived. Their genes would not have passed down to us if they weren't able to bring a sense of safety and calm, if they weren't able to soothe and regulate the emotions of themselves and the emotions of their children. So we all have the ability to bring us to that slow, restful, soothing sense. So I want to do a little exercise about these three systems and which one we spend most of our time and energy in. Um, the drive system, um, what is it like for you when you're in drive? When you're in getting things done mode? Does it feel energizing and effortful, or both? Um, how easy is it for you to rest once a task or a goal is completed? Some of us, our drive system can get hijacked by our threat system, and we're no longer working to achieve our goals. We're working hard in order to avoid letting other people down or letting ourselves down. So, what's it like for you when you're in drive? Is it energizing? Is it exhausting? When threat is active, what do you first notice in your body and in your mind? Um, Once it's switched on, does it settle quickly or does it tend to linger long after the threat has passed? Um, and then the soothe system. What, if anything, helps your body settle, even a small amount? Does that sense of soothing and ease, or even a glimpse of it, does it feel familiar? Um, or does it feel awkward and hard to allow? Do we need to kind of specifically give ourselves permission to engage that system in ourselves, to allow that system in ourselves? So, what I would like you to do is if you can grab a pen and paper handy, and if you don't have a paper and pen handy, don't worry, you can do this in your mind's eye. Draw the three circles and size them according to the amount of time and energy that you spend in a typical week in each one. So if most of your time is spent worrying and ruminating, then draw a big circle for the threat system at the bottom. If you spend very little time feeling safe and contented, then draw a small circle for the soothing system. And if you like, I'll give you a moment to do that. But if you like, we can compare notes after the recording is done. For most of us, what this exercise usually shows is not that we're doing anything wrong, but that our system is often under sustained pressure. Um, Many parents here live with a large threat system, and a hard working drive system and a very small soothing system. And that makes sense given what we're dealing with a lot of the time. And the aim is not to shrink threat or to shrink drive, both are necessary. But the aim is often to help the system recover by giving soothing more space, even in small ways. Small moments of settling are not a luxury. They're how the system stays capable of protecting and capable of caring. If we were talking about a physical system, if we were talking about physical fitness and running, nobody here would expect us to keep running, and when we're tired, keep running, and when we need to rest, keep running. But when we're talking about not the physical system, but the mental health system, um, we kind of expect ourselves, or sometimes don't give ourselves permission to engage our soothing, content, safety responses. So for some of us, it's about giving ourselves permission. For some of us, it's about accepting help when it is available. Um, I know what it's like myself when I'm very stressed, when my threat system is activated. I can have the thought easily, well, nobody is going to give this the care and attention that I give to it, and nobody can do this like I can, and so I can't ask for help. I can't accept help. But accepting help and allowing our threat system to stand down even a little bit, even for a short time, is absolutely essential to being able to maintain our care over the long haul. It's about learning a way of self-soothing that's meaningful and effective for us. And it may be that we're learning to soothe ourselves, or it may be that we're opening up to the soothing that might be available to somebody else. But I think my point is it's not a luxury. So let me tell you a little story about one time when my threat detection system was activated. I was going to the good people of Sligo, and I was giving a talk in Sligo IT. I was asked to give a talk on mindfulness. And I got there in plenty of time, parked my car, went into Sligo IT, had a reasonable cup of coffee, went up the stairs to the nursing department, only to find that I had got it wrong and that the talk was due to be given in a place called St. Angela's, which was out on the beautiful lake of Lochgill, about 15 minutes from the college. I'm not proud of the next 15 minutes. I ran to my car. I hit the road in spots on the way out to St. Angela's. Arrived in front of this lovely audience, a living example of the fight or flight system in practice. I needed a moment to recover. Did the talk, came out, gathered myself, looked out on this beautiful lake, and realized that it's the location of the Lake Isle of Innisfree, which some of us, learned in school as a poem by W.B. Yeats. And it's actually a poem about mindfulness. Yeats looks back on this place as a safe place. And he says, I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow. It's a safe place of calm and contentment. And Yeats says, this is not a trick. It's not a technique. He says, I hear it deeply. I hear it in the deep heart's core. So one of the things I'd like to invite you to do tonight is to see if we can connect, even in a glimmer, even to get a glimpse of that sense of safety in us, and explore a little bit what it's like in the body and what our feelings about it are like. So if you choose for the next few minutes, sitting comfortably or as comfortably as you can. No fancy kaftans or gongs for this, just both feet on the floor. And bring a gentle focus to, again, your breathing. And just become aware of the gentle rise of the tummy when you breathe in, and the relaxing of the tummy when you breathe out. And before we start, we're going to play a little experiment with the breath. So just for a moment, speeding up the breath a little, or slowing it down just a little, until you find a rhythm of breathing that's soothing and comforting for you. And when you're ready, see if you can create a picture of a place in your mind, a place that could give you a sense of safeness and calmness. It can be indoors or outdoors. It can be in Ireland or overseas. It can be real or imagined. Just see if you can take a moment to picture a place that gives you that sense of safety and calm. And imagine looking round you. What can you see in this place? It might be a beautiful wood where the leaves of the trees are moving gently in the breeze. You might see shafts of light on the ground. For some of us, it might be a beautiful beach, clear crystal sea stretching out to the horizon. Or it might be a cozy, relaxing log fire. And now focus on what you can feel, like the sensations of the sun on your face, or the breeze through your hair. Or maybe you can feel soft white sand underneath your feet. Next, think about what you can hear. Can you hear the rustle of the leaves on the trees or birds, crackling fire or gentle hushing of waves on the sand? Or maybe there's nothing but silence. And now think about whether you can smell anything. Might be the salty smell of the sea or the smell of wood smoke or just the sweetness of the air. When you bring this safe place to mind, allow your body to relax. Think about your facial expression. Allow it to have a soft smile of pleasure just being there. And imagine that the place itself takes joy in you being there. Allow yourself to feel how your safe place has pleasure in you being there. Explore your feelings when you imagine that this place is happy with you being there. Even if it's a fleeting sense of where the image might be, try to create an emotional connection with the sense of belonging in this place. Lovely. So I want to talk a little bit about mindfulness because it's another way, I suppose, of connecting with that soothing, safe, contented system, even for a moment, even just to give our threat detection system or our drive system a rest. Now, as you might have guessed, I'm from Tipperary, and in Tipperary, I didn't grow up with mindfulness. Tipperary is famous for a lot of things, and I'll only get away with this slide for another few months, perhaps. Tipperary is famous for its champagne, as you may know, and of course its singers. Lots of famous singers from Tipperary. Um, Famous for our American president, although I heard awfully people claim him. At least he's better than the presidents of some counties. Um, and as people, especially Cork people, know, Tipperary is a hotbed of philosophizing. We're not known for our mindfulness. When I was growing up, we would have said, it's fierce boring. Or we might have said, it's a bit airy-fairy like. And we don't stand for that kind of thing in Tipperary. Or we might have said, I'm way too busy running around in circles for that. Sure, haven't I a mountain of scrolling to get through? Or we're not all monks from the mountains sitting cross-legged and sucking on raisins. Or we might say some of us are just trying to get through the day without clattering someone. We're not known for our mindfulness in Tipperary, at least not when I was growing up there. But what I want to invite you to think about is mindfulness is a little bit like a mental hygiene exercise. We may spend 2, 3, 4 minutes in dental hygiene per day. And the suggestion is if we spend that long in dental hygiene, why not spend a couple of minutes on mental hygiene as well? If you Google mindfulness on the internet, you'll probably come up with some kind of image like this. It'll either be somebody sitting on a Himalayan mountain, cold, probably in reality, or there'll be three rocks stacked one on top of the other. But this is not what I mean from mindfulness, and certainly not what we'd get away with in Tipperary. When I think of mindfulness, I think it's what we should do when we choose the wrong cue in super value. We're not going anywhere for a while. We might as well sit still and have a look at what's really going on. Mindfulness is not a kind of a blissed out, zoned out, nothing on my mind, I'm at peace. It's quite the opposite. As soon as we start to do a bit of mindfulness, we realize how much mental traffic, in fact, there is. And the trick is not to try and blank out the traffic or block the traffic. And the trick is not to run after one of the cars on the road, but actually it's to sit on the bank and just watch the thoughts as they pass and watch the feelings as they pass and try not to get too bound up in them and notice when we got caught up in them and bring ourselves back to the present moment. So if it's okay, I'd like to invite you to give it a try for a few minutes. Here is, if you choose, a kind of a 3-minute mental hygiene routine. So when you're ready, and if you choose, again, just start with your feet on the floor and just notice the weight of the feet on the floor. And notice the downward pressure of the body on the chair. Maybe the point of contact between the back and the back of the chair. And all we're going to do for the next few minutes is rest and become aware. And we become aware using the information from the senses. That's what brings us into the here and now. So noticing your sense of taste. Your sense of smell. And we're not thinking about it. We're just asking, what's there? What's in this moment? If your eyes are open, see if you can see what's in your sight without any thought or chatter in the mind. And now, if you can, just for a moment, listen and rest and let all the sounds around you come to your ears. Just listen and rest. And see if you can let the listening run right out to the furthest and most distant sound you can hear. And this is it. We're already mindful. And all this time, we've been breathing. So see now if you can gather the focus of your attention around the physical sensations of the breath as the breath enters the body and leaves. Some people most notice the breath with the air on the inside of the nostrils slightly cooler when you breathe in, slightly warmer when you breathe out. Just see if that's true for you. Some people notice the gentle rise of the tummy on the in-breath, and the relaxing of the tummy on the out-breath. Again, just see if that's true. This time we're not trying to breathe in any special way. It's just this breath coming in and this breath going out. And if we follow the breath even for just a little while, what often happens is that the mind starts to wander. And that's not a mistake. That's very natural and normal. That's what minds do. In fact, it's the point of the exercise. So each time that you notice the mind wandering, just register where it's been and bring the attention back to where you want it to be, now on the physical feeling of the breath. And we try to bring the breath back with an air of kind of kindness and curiosity. Kind of a sense of coming home to the breath. Because stillness and calm doesn't happen when the mind stops. Doesn't happen when the world goes quiet. Stillness and calm comes when we take things moment by moment and breath by breath. So the Buddha came down to Thurles, he did, down to Liberty Square, and he was chatting with a few of the lads. And he told us the story of the two Hurleys. I don't know if you've heard this story of the two Hurleys. This is a true story. The Buddha says that life is like a game of hurling. We all go out on the pitch, and every single one of us is capable of playing the game to the best of our ability with flexibility and intelligence. But if you've ever played hurling in Tipperary, it's a tough game. It's sometimes a merciless game. And you could easily get a belt of a hurley right in the shins. And it really, really, really hurts. And the Buddha said, life is like that. Life is full of suffering, in fact, he said. Some of the lads didn't like to hear that at all. But he said life has got a lot of trickiness to it, a lot of hardship, a lot of difficulties, a lot of adversity. And when life hits you with a hurley, it's very, very normal to replay it over in our heads. Why did this happen to me? That's outrageous. It shouldn't have been happening. What did I do to deserve this? This is not fair. This is 100% awful. I can't cope with this. This proves that I'm no good, or that life is no good, or that other people are no good. And so it's very natural when life belts us with a hurley that we would replay it over and over in our heads, cursing them to kingdom come, suffering the sting long after the actual wallop. All the blaming, all the anger, all the feeling sorry for ourselves. That's what it's like getting the belt of the the second belt of the hurley. The first belt we can do nothing about. It happens. It's life. But the second belt is the one we hit ourselves with in response. So the Buddha said to us, don't be slapping yourself with your own hurley. Life is hard enough. Instead, I think it's about attempting to cultivate a response to ourselves when things are difficult, an ability to respond to ourselves with compassion, to respond to ourselves as we would respond to anybody else in a similar situation. If somebody else was going through what we were going through, I'm sure we would respond with a sense of warmth and a sense of strength and a sense of responsibility for how we respond. We respond from a place of wisdom. And I think really all I'm suggesting tonight is that we try to cultivate the same abilities, the same qualities when we're responding to ourselves and when we're responding to our own suffering. Responding to ourselves with a sense of compassion might mean, instead of saying, what's wrong with me, saying I tried my best, instead of saying, how could I let this happen, saying I'm a human being like everybody else, instead of saying I can't do anything right, realizing or saying to myself, I never signed a contract to be perfect. Instead of saying to myself, I'd inevitably fail, concentrating on what I've learned and how I can improve it for next time. And instead of putting myself down, just saying next time I'll try and do it, or next time I'll try and do it differently. Practicing a little bit of mindfulness, a little bit of self-compassion. It can be a little bit like steadying ourselves or grounding ourselves. It's a little bit like kind of finding our roots again. But when we practice for a little while, it's a little bit like coming down below the surface of mind, even for a few moments. You know, mind is a very, very busy place with all sorts of plans and thoughts and worries and ideas and regrets. Practicing a little bit of mindfulness doesn't take all of that away, but it allows us to come down where the water is a little clearer. We can start to get a bit of perspective, start to see some of that for what it really is. Because mind, all of our minds, are a little bit like scampering puppies, you know, capering around, uh, digging up stuff that often in that moment doesn't need to be dug up. And we don't train a puppy by getting cross with it or explain stuff to it or helping it think its way out of its problems. We just call the puppy back to where we want it to be and express a bit of kindness that it arrives back to us. And when I think training the mind to weather and survive through an overworked threat system is a little bit like that from time to time. Tina was reminding me earlier on just how many years we've been working in this. And for all the years I've been working in it, I've never had somebody come to me and say, Brian, if I could only sit down and do a good 2 hours worrying, I'd be grand. You know, if I could just be focused on me worries for a good 2 hours and give them a good whirl, I'd get through the damn things. We all know that if we sat down and did a good 2 hours worrying, we wouldn't be better off after it. We'd be in a much more exhausted state. If the dashboard, the engine light on the dashboard of the brain is often where our worries are starting to interfere with our sleep, where we're trying to fold the mind into rest, but the brain keeps worrying and the response system is activated and won't stand down to allow us to sleep. And I find mindfulness helps a lot with this. It might not make sense the first time we do it or the second time we do it, but giving ourselves permission to learn and switch into this calming, soothing response system, I find very helpful. And what it often does is it alerts us to the warning signs of our distress and our exhaustion. And if we can recognize those signs, I think we're in a much better place to start to regulate it. Because I really think there is a kind of an inner wisdom in us all. There's a voice that's in us all that we're all capable of, that kind of knows what the right thing to do is and how we might advise a dear friend in a similar situation. And I think a bit of mindfulness allows us the space, maybe to kind of start to allow that inner voice to work on ourselves just as well. So I think that's really all I had to say this evening, Kleena. Thank you very much.